maybe living in it's going to be 9 of the 10 people. I'm going to just be doing living events, right? I'm not going to have to see them. I'm not going to have to do any of these things because they're people that were part of my past. One of the hardest, toughest amends that I had to do was someone who had passed away. And it's crazy because she passed away, and while I was on the step, and I ended up going to her funeral, and my sponsor had told me, she said, well, she's like, when you go, she's like, if something comes over you to want to make that amends there, you can do that. And when I was getting out of my car in the parking lot, I like shut my door and like got out of the car and turned around really fast, and I thought that I saw the girl that the funeral I was attending. I thought I saw her, and I took that as my sign. So when I went up to do like my final goodbyes, whatever, I made amends to her there, and I wanted to share that because that was it was really powerful for me. And so I did my step 8. And then I moved on to my step 9, and which was actually making the amends. And I've only, like I said, most of mine were living amends. And I've only made one amends, and it was one of the coolest things like I've ever done in my life. So it's crazy because like my higher power, who I choose to call God, like really works in crazy ways, right? And me and my wife, we just bought a home, and so we had some stuff. We were going to do some stuff in the house before we moved in, before we moved all of our furniture, and we were going to do all kinds of stuff in the house, right? So I had a friend that was going to come over and do some plumbing in the house before we moved in. And so I planned on a Saturday that he was going to come, but I was going to go over my step 9 first with my sponsor, and then we were going to meet at the house afterwards. And something, this person did not come up on my step 8 or my step 9 while I was working. And I think I waited maybe a month to go, like, to actually be able to get with my sponsor and go over my step 9. But in that month, God was like throwing this person like at me, like you missed something or whatever it was. And so like for a whole month, I was like, okay, obviously I'm missing something. I need to talk to my sponsor about it. So when I got to her house to go over step 9, like the whole way there, I was like upset. I was crying, like all this stuff. And she's like, what is going on with you? Like, and so I just kind of like let her know everything that was going on with me, what was going through my head, like how God had been putting this person in my life and like in my head that I needed to do some work around that. And she's like, okay, she's like, write it all down. And she's like, when are you going to see this person? And I was like, I'm actually leaving here to go meet him at my house. Wow. And she's like, well, this is perfect. She's like, I suggest you write it all down if you want to. She's like, and you can do your first amends today. And I was like, you want me to write it all down? And she's like, if you want to. And I was like, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't think I'm going to write it down. She's like, okay, up to you. And I said, I don't know. I think I like got a drink, sat down for a second, started thinking about it, and I was like, I'm not going to remember all that. So I sat at her kitchen table. I wrote it all down. And we went over my step 9. I left there, got to my house, and this person pulled up, got out of his car, whatever. And I was like, hey, this is super crazy. I'm about to do something. Don't make it weird. Don't make it awkward. I'm like, just come here. He's like, okay. And I'm like, just come here, whatever. And he comes around my car. Mind you, there's nothing in my house. That's why I'm sitting in my car waiting on him. And so he gets out of the car, comes around, and I pull my notebook out, and I'm like, I'm going to read you something. And I was like, just bear with me. And he's like, okay. And I read him this whole thing that I wrote out, right? Like admitting my faults, taking responsibility, all these things are things that I did to him. And at the time that I didn't think were a big deal. But obviously now, like years later, I'm like, this is a big deal, you know? And so I read it all, and he's like, that's it? And I'm like, yeah, that's it. But, you know, like, I'm in tears, I'm crying because, like, you know, whatever. And he's like, thank you for that. And he was like, you're free. You know, like, I forgive you. And that was just like the coolest, rawest experience. Like I said, that was my first amends that I've ever made, like face to face with somebody who's also in the program. And it definitely made me, it was very rewarding. It was very uplifting. And also, another thing, when I was telling somebody about that, she was like, well, just remember, not all of them will be like that. And I was like, you're right. I was like, well, I'm not there yet. So right now I'm going to take this win.
That's right.
I'm going to take this, you know? And so, you know, that being said, like, it was just a very cool experience for me. And I loved how my sponsor was like, write it all down, you know, like, because I could have probably remembered it all, but like in the moment with being upset, like, and in my head and all that stuff, like, I would have been like, yeah, I'm sorry, you know, and that would have been it. So I'm really grateful that I have that tool now also, because I believe that when I do and have to make amends in the future, like, I will probably also write it down. And so I do know there's also one other person on my list that I'm not able to make amends to right now because they are still in active addiction. And I know that's another hiccup that I've had to like work through, because I didn't even want to finish my step 9 because I was like, I'm not going to be, this is like one person that I really wanted to make amends to. And I was like, can I just like meet up with them and just tell them how I feel and then leave? And people are like, no, you can't do that, you know, like, and obviously I know that I can't do that, but it took me talking to like 5 or 6 different addicts and like 5 or 6 different people and getting different perspectives and stuff for me to actually accept the fact that, okay, that's really not good for me. Like, I know that I can't do that. And that when the time is right, God will make it known. And so I have accepted that, and I've moved forward. And so now I'm just enjoying it, you know. Today through working all of the steps, and then especially just finishing step 8 and 9, I'm able to apply the amends process like in my life a lot quicker today. I'm able to like see and recognize and be aware of when I need to make amends, like immediately, as opposed to waiting or hurting someone's feelings and then a month later being like, oh, I think I shouldn't have done that. Or I'm aware of it today, like a lot quicker, and I'm able to correct it a lot faster. And I know that I wouldn't be able to do any of those things today if it wasn't for the program of Narcotics Anonymous and the people that came before me, who showed me the way every single day, when I'm willing, when I'm not willing, when I'm kicking and screaming, and when I'm making stupid decisions or spontaneous decisions or whatever the case is. I know that this is where I can come to be me and be okay and be accepted. And that's my experience on 8 and 9.
Wow.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Jeremy. I'm an addict.
Hey, Jeremy.
And just want y'all to know y'all are in for a treat today, because the committee actually sought me out in this particular step because of how well they know my experience in step 8 and 9, right? I'm lying.
We got you.
I really got to call from the program, somebody in program, and they're like, hey, you want to do a workshop while you're at GRCNA? I'm like, yeah, sure, what you got? So first one was like, you speak Spanish? I'm like, you know, like, what about regardless of age, race, sexual identity? I was like, I don't think I have any experience there. And he's like, okay, what about predatory behavior in Narcotics Anonymous? I'm like, no. I was like, what else you got? He's like, all right, steps 8, 9. I was like, okay, I can do that one. I can figure it out, you know. And fortunately, I have worked these steps a couple of times with a sponsor. It's one of the first things they say in our books to make sure you don't enter into this process without one. And so I did follow a few instructions along the way. And I've had all kinds of different experiences with living amends, face-to-face amends and stuff like that. But really, step 8 is ain't about amends at all. Like it tells you specifically in there, and it mentions it a few times, to not even be thinking about the amends that you have to make while you're in the process of making this list. And I think that's because like there's fear in the amends, right? There's fear and doubt and unassurances or whatever. But if I'm making this list, for me, it was one of the first times in recovery and in step work that I was actively thinking about other people. You know, everything else up to that point had been about me and like doing what I need to do to clear my records, working on my character defects, working on the whatever I had to go, like clearing the records in my past and getting right with God, getting right with myself. And then now all of a sudden it's like, hey, that's not the end of this thing. Like you have to also fix this other stuff with everybody out there. Been doing this inside work, making sure you're right. It's like now that you're somewhat better, like it's time to like really start repairing the past. And so my list was huge. I had like complete opposite story. So I had a tremendous amount of people on my list because I got one of those memories that like I almost never forget anything. It's like helped me in school, of course, because I never had to study. But it was like if I hear it and I see it, I pretty much know it, you know. And so I had this long list of people. And the list is still evolving. The list has never been finished for me, right? There's no like, this was my list, we're done. When this is over, it's over. Because especially when I'm from a small town, and like literally there's hardly anybody that's around my age or whatever. My small town was all about, it's like 27,000 people. So of course we all knew each other and we were all kind of kin and we all slept with each other and all this stuff. So we're all kind of wreckage there. And so pretty much every time I go home, like I run into somebody at a convenience store that like, oh, I need to add into the list. And new in recovery, the first time around, I would just add it to the list. Like now I've been clean long enough to know that I've been given the opportunity to make the amends right then. Like God has put that person in my life in that moment in order to go ahead and clean that up, regardless. But I do have to assess whether I'm going to cause some damage by bringing it up or not, right? So for the most part, I don't think I've done that particular. There have been a couple where I went to make amends and got roughshod over and cursed out again or whatever. But it wasn't my intention going in. The second part of it, step 8, is becoming willing, right? So, like it says in our literature that like a good starting point for our 8-step list is our 4-step. You know, because we got all these people that we thought harmed us, and for the most part, like I was kind of vindictive, right? So if somebody harmed me, like I may figure out a way to get back at them, you know, and like so those people that I felt harmed me, also I owed amends to, you know, and so putting those people on the list, a bunch of different financial amends was pretty much. I don't even know that I could have made all the shoplifting amends that I made, right, that I owed back, right? I pretty much, we grew up in this, like I said, in a small town. We didn't really always have a lot of money, even though my mom was in the room, which is weird having probably one of the top people on your list in the room while you're talking about stuff.
Wow.
We'll get to that. But she worked her ass off, right? But we never really had a lot of money. We had all the stuff we needed, not all the stuff we wanted. So of course I made sure that I went and got what I wanted by stealing, right? And I'd walk in with an old pair of shoes and come out with a new pair of shoes, stuffing cashmere sweaters down my pants and walking out the stores with it. Pretty bold. I owed a lot of amends to waitresses, right? I used to think it was cool to take advantage of or make a waitress cry to get a free meal.
Mm.
So I was like, now it's like my living amends for that is like I tip 20%, no matter if they take a dump on my plate, right? I'm going to give them 20% because I can never go back and make
Right.
amends to any waitress that I don't remember, but I can to these, right? So it's like it's one of those things. But becoming willing was the hard part because it's hard to. It was difficult for me to let go of the hurt. You know, I don't know that I hold like specific grudges, but the stuff that pains me, like when it comes up, I'm just like, I kind of am done with the people. You know, I'm not like actively going out and seeking ways to harm anymore. But like back in the past, it was like they're out of my life, whatever. I don't want to participate in this. But the willingness part was there. You know? So I had this huge list, and of course, you had to talk to I had to my sponsor about every single one of those men's. And I also had to itemize the men's list personally and how difficult I thought they were going to be. Right. And so he's like, I want you to prioritize these things about the most important, whether these are going to be hard or not. And I want you to do it from easiest to hardest. Right. So I had a bunch of people at the top, and then of course my mom and my baby mama and stuff like that were at the bottom. He's like, all right, I want you to start making these amends. And so here I go clicking off these amends, these super easy ones, ones that are monetary or ones that are like writing a letter or whatever, the easy ones. And after I got about 5 of them under the belt, he was like, all right, you got to flip the list now. It's time to get going, right? And so I think my mom might have been second on the list because, of course, my mother of my children had made the top. And because like I there's no limit to the amount of stuff I did to her, you know, like she not only did I make her bear children and stay home with her and stuff like that, but I also was running around sleeping with every girl in town behind her back and or sometimes in her face. And so and she was an active addiction. I think my mom might have been an active addiction when I made amends with her, right? And so she was definitely she actually came out of what we believe was she was cooking meth, and maybe not at the time, but we know that she was cooking meth for this little town or whatever that I was in. So in that shack, it was happening at some point or another. So I didn't ever get advised not to go make that amends because like I was in a place that I needed to heal. You know, I needed to unburden, or whatever if I wanted to continue on in recovery, if I wanted to continue the growth that recovery had started. And the fact that I was willing to do it, even though no matter how painful it was going to be, my sponsor said I was ready, right? And I have a relationship with this woman, so it wasn't like we were estranged or anything like that, because we had children. And so we were cordial, but like, so I drove up to this house, and she comes out of the shanty or whatever, and she kind of knew what I was there for, but didn't know what it was, and like, I basically sat in the car with her for like an hour, just like going over all the things that I didn't get into gory details with her because half the stuff that I got away with, she didn't even know. But I knew, right? I knew that I had gotten away with it. I knew that I had treated her badly even when she didn't know. I knew that I had disrespected her in ways that she was not aware of. And so I just kind of laid it out there on the line. She was not in a space to hear it, right? She listened, but my sponsor had already let me know that going in that don't expect anything. Like the only thing you can expect is for something to happen for you, right? And so I wasn't expecting her to say, "Oh, I forgive you, and everything's gonna be hunky-dory now, and we can get back together. I love you." I think I may have been married. Maybe not, but I don't even remember what time this was. I did wait a while to get into the steps. You know, I was kind of coasting for a little while. I also made my amends with my mom, and it was an emotional experience to say the least. But she's clean today, right?
That's right.
So like I did, maybe it feels like that was part of that, like kind of was like tearing off a little bit of the
Mhm.
barrier in between her and her recovery, you know, and so you never know when that might be the case too. The amend process, like my sponsor has me, and I do it to my sponsees. Y'all can take it and steal it if you want to, but so before we even begin the step, we have to look up every word in the step. Like in the step working guide, you look at the read, you read it, right? So, and we have to write down what we think our definition is and what the actual definition is out of the dictionary, not off my phone, but I'm gonna pull it up off my phone in a minute, but the actual dictionary definition, write this stuff down. And so, of course, it talks about in our literature where we think that the word amends means to say I'm sorry,
Mhm.
right? And but according to this,
And some more.
it's kind of three of them, and they all sound pretty right. It's like the definition of amend is to put right, to make an amendment is to put it right,
Mhm.
to change or modify for the better, and to reform oneself.
Yes. And that's-
Right, and that last one is really where the power comes in for me, is because my experience in the moment was that making the list, becoming willing, and doing some of the amends was all about those other people, right? But it wasn't at all. Like, those were the vehicles for me to reform
Yourself.
myself. You know, and that was like the next, they call it steps for a reason. These people that made this AA first, and then we stole it and did whatever we did with it or whatever, but steps for a reason, you know, it's like the next thing that I have to do in order to make me whole again, to make me what I believe God intended me to be all along if I hadn't been put drugs in my body, you know. And so reforming myself is the thing that I really love how Kelsey said that she's talking about. She sees the chance to make these amends now. And the 10th step is probably the number one as far as I can tell. Like,
Mhm.
I'm at the point now in my recovery where I'm so amend avoidant that I don't even want to cause harm in the first place. I don't want to have to make an amends.
Mhm.
You know, I would rather not do any harm. That way I don't have to make amends.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very different than when I came in. I remember before I got clean, like the movie Gran Torino came out, right? And it has Clint Eastwood, and he's like always standing on his porch, racial slurs, just a mean, curmudgeon type of dude, right? And that was my dream for myself. Like I wanted to be that dude, but hold on, I didn't even have a house. My dream stopped at a trailer. We have trailer parks in my hometown, a lot of them, and they're on dirt roads. But my dream also stopped at me sitting on my porch, smoking weed and drinking a beer and yelling at people. You know, just being that dude that nobody wanted to be around with. But like what that movie shows you in the end is that he was kind of alone.
Mhm.
You know, and that's kind of where my life was going. If I kept going what I was doing, I was going to eventually eliminate everybody from my life, either through physical or emotional or spiritual harm, right? It talks about that in our literature too. It's like harm is not just about something we do to somebody else, it's about how we affect them, you know, on a spiritual and emotional level. And so there was my dream, right? And that's what I thought I was going to be, and that's what I wanted to be, just an old man, crotchety old man. Curmudgeon was like, I could have got it tattooed on my body because that's where I thought I was going. Weirdly, I didn't have any tattoos when I was using. I got all my tattoos. I got like 14 tattoos, and I got them all in recovery. Kind of my hand. Once I figured out one was cool, and I was lighter, I went and got a bunch. Which nobody knows anything about that, right? So, but my recovery has evolved about the type of person that I want to be, right, and the possibilities of who that person can be. And my wife's here now, so number big ones on the amends list showing up in the room tonight. But so I've actually gravitated. There's a man I know. His name's Keith McNulty. He's a very close friend of mine, and he has a father. Right, of course we all have fathers, but I was able to meet this man, and I've been around him a few times since, and like everywhere I've been around him, like we've been out to eat, we've been at Ironman races and stuff like that, and literally this man affects everybody he meets positively. Like he's just a genuinely nice person, and like jovial, full of joy, spreads the love. People will gravitate to him because like he's a beacon of light, seemingly, you know. And people that have met him would probably say the same. But I actually took the time, like he became my Clint Eastwood, right? Became the person I wanted to be like. Like I never had no dad, you know. I don't have a father figure to look after, so I've adopted that stuff in recovery as time goes on, and that picture of who that is has changed over time. And now I had this man, you know, and I actually took the time, which I don't know that most people do when they find role models. I went and told him, like I sat him down, I was like, hey, this may sound strange. I'm like, but like, you're who I want to be when I grow up, you know, and usually it's like firefighters or astronauts or right. Like, who I want to be when I grow up is like somebody that positively impacts everybody they come into contact with.
That's good.
You know, and that's a pretty big feat, you know. I'm in a men's group and we talk about legacy a lot. Like, so we're always thinking about like the type of impact that we're having on the world. And of course we want to be like, we have all these lofty ideals and we want to be making this huge impact on the world and stuff like that. So we were actually talking about that the other night. But then we moved the discussion to like, what if we only had 5 days to enact our legacy, right? And so I'm sitting there thinking, and believe it or not, that kind of took the wind out of my sails and shrunk my context a little bit. You know, because if I only got 5 days, I really want to make it about me, my wife, my mom, my children, their children, and like, let's do as much as we can in the next 5 days and see as many places we can, and create as many experiences we can. And I sit here now with this newfound life that I have and like think that I got all the time in the world, right? I feel like I'm going to live until I'm 100 now, you know, when I thought I was going to die at 21. And so like, I keep telling myself I have time to do all the stuff that I want to do. And so when I was talking about what I wanted to do in the next 5 days, it was like the next question was, why am I not doing that stuff now?
Right.
You know, because I could leave here in just a minute, fall out in the hallway out there and be gone, and there's no legacy. What?
We don't want to hear that.
But my point is, like, we never know. Like, I think all of us, in my experience with most people in recovery, is like that's where they're trying to get is like to give back for the life they've been given and make a positive impact in people's lives, not only just theirs, you know. And so I think we're all doing that, you know, and the cumulative effect of our energy in the world. And that's why I think these conventions are so amazing. The gathering of recovering addicts is so amazing because I feel like I walk away with what more in the tank. You know, it's like the Grinch who stole Christmas gets his heart filled up 5 times bigger, you know, by being around you people and taking it in and then taking your love out in the world. And I'm able to do more than what I could do on my own, you know. So another amends that's going on for me right now is pretty much a living amends. It's like I grew up in a small town, like I said, and there was very much a racial divide in that town. You know, it's like, here's the tracks, you stay over here and we stay over here. And there's no commingling unless I need some drugs and I'll go over there.
Right.
Or some stuff, whatever I need to handle me in the moment, you know. And so going back to the Grinch thing reminded me of this because no matter how much work I did on it and how much I tried, like there was always a part of me that had that in the back of my mind, right? I saw color for sure, and it was very much us and them. And fortunately, I've been given a mixed race grandchild, right? And she's 5 years old, and like she literally every day she lives with us now, and she's about to move again, so now I'm super sad about that. She is kind of a little bitch, but I don't know how she got this much of a bitch in 5 years, but she is. But when she's sweet,
That's what he said.
when she's sweet, she's the sweetest there is, But the fact that I still look at her, I see her brown skin, right? I acknowledge her brown skin, and I love her for that, And so that's helped me be able to do that with every other single person I come into contact with. I ain't saying it's repaired, because that stuff you carry for years and years and years never goes away, but it's like not as fresh, and
Right.
it doesn't make me, it's not visceral anymore, it's just like one of those things that pops in my head. I'm like, oh, I gotta do that's done, and it's like she made my heart bigger,
Good.
and it's a really cool experience, and I've been able to share that in recovery a few times, and so like being like I made amends to my children for how I treated them. I remember my kids used to, if I came down the hallway super fast, my kids would tuck their asses up against the wall, because they were like afraid that I was about to spank them, and these were like toddlers, kids were toddlers. So I was like, if she grabbed something on the table, I would smack her on the hand at 2, so full on pretty much abuse, and but in my mind, like I lived the life of getting beat like a redheaded stepchild, right? So like I wasn't beating them with swords, I wasn't beating them with sticks and making it, and so of course it didn't register that it was abuse to me. And so making that amends is like being the best pawpaw I can be,
That's
right?
right.
That's me, and that actually is 100% the most, like I like a lot of things about myself today, right? I like being a husband, I like being a business owner, I like being boss, I like being a son, but like pawpaw is up at the top of the list, and I'm about to have my 5th grandchild, and 2 of them are 5, 2 of them are about going to be 6, 2 of them are going to be 4, and then I'm going to have this new one this year. And the one of the downfalls to thinking about that 5-day conversation was like, one of the things that comes to my mind is that I wasn't going to see this newest granddaughter being born, and so the idea of missing out on that stuff is sad, because like they're about to bring this beautiful thing into the world. We're going to love her and this and that, and so that's the life I've been given in recovery, is like I get to be a part of these lives, and your lives. I wouldn't have been able to stay here if I hadn't have done steps 8 and 9.
Right.
I would have done all this work and then not finished, and I have a history of not finishing things in my life up until I got in recovery, and now I'm like, I feel like that's one of the other things I like about myself. If I pretty much put my mind to something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to see it through and achieve greatness, right? Or try my best to do that. So I don't know if y'all got anything.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Oh,
Great.
God.
You did not. I certainly did. Most of the time I'm talking to myself. I'm trying to do my best to heal myself, and that's all I can do is to continue to try to grow. Thanks for letting me share.
So we have plenty of time. If people would like to share, you can either come up to the chair or
They can stay.
stay seated, I guess.
Stay there.
So it's open for sharing.
Yes.
Where do I gotta go?
You can stay with
sit.
us.
Right there?
Yeah.
My name's Kevin, I'm an actor.
Hey,
Kevin.
That was pretty awesome. And I remember when I got into the steps and I was told the express elevator to getting clean is broken. Use the steps.
Oh, I like that.
In other words, when I was here for 2 weeks, I didn't go around telling everybody how sorry I was because I'd be lying.
Right.
If I told you I was sorry, I was lying. And Anyway, one funny story I gotta share with you. Now, I've been clean since sometime in July of 2005. And I was in the Air Force for 6 years. From 19 to like 24, whatever. And I remember telling my sponsor, you know, I have to make amends to people. I can't remember some of their names, and yada, yada. And there was this one guy, Murph. And when I was stationed in New Mexico, if you were in the Air Force, they gave you, if you were in base housing, they gave you whatever house became available. It was him and his wife. They gave him a 4-bedroom house. And Murph said, you better come take a room in my house because you're going to get busted in the barracks or whatever, And I said, okay. And I go over to Murph's house and he gives me a bedroom. Now, who the hell had money for a bed? I didn't have money for a bed. I got in the way of party. I slept on the floor, And then he had a wife, Sue. She was from the Philippines. And I took over their living. And of course, I don't have to tell you what goes on with there. And Sue started going to Vegas to work up there. And he would leave for the weekend to go see her, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, I wasn't a very good cohabitant in the house. And so for 40 years, I'm carrying in my head with all of this stuff, right? So this past summer, I go to Vegas. I spent my whole summer traveling. I hooked up with Murph through a Facebook page, with the old squadron or whatever. And so I meet Murph in his house, and I say, Murph, I'll never forget the kindness that you gave me. If there's anything I can ever do for you, please don't hesitate to get a hold of me. And I said, what I did to you and what I did to Sue, to your home, I'm not happy. And I said, I'd like to tell Sue. And he goes, I said, Sue here? He goes, yeah, wait a minute. Sue, come here. Sue comes out and she goes, hey, Sue, remember Kevin? And she says, no.
Oh, wow.
So for 40 years, I'm carrying that around in my head. But that's not the reason why I made the amends. I made the amends for me.
That's right.
And that was the whole thing that was told to me about these steps. It was cleaning my side of the street.
That's right.
And it was like, sometimes you don't get that big warm hug. Oh, you're doing great. It's like, you son of a SOB. And my sponsor, when he went over to eat with me, he said, what's the motive for this one? And I was like, nah, what's the motive for this one? Okay. And, and then there were things I had to do, like, I had to bring food there was a place called Pots in the Bronx called Part of the Solution. And I had to bring food there for a month, like once a week. I had to bring a bunch of food there. And, stuff like that I had to do, and monetary stuff. And, it's just this whole process with these steps do. So like for myself, I don't know where in those 12 steps I changed as a person, but somewhere along that road I changed, and I hope I don't have to go back to being that other person.
Right.
And I try to practice kindness, and and I got a big mouth sometimes, and I still have, for me, 6 and 7 are the key for me. Character defects and asking, and I can't do nothing about it, it's my higher power, and I gotta remember that. But my mouth has gotten me in trouble in my head. And I'm so grateful that I'm here. I've never been to an NA convention before. I shared that earlier. And my buddy Rob called me up from Tucson and said, I'm down in Florida. And he said, we're going to Georgia. And I said, all right. And you know what? I have an opportunity to do that because I'm clean.
That's right.
If I wasn't clean, all bets are off.
Right.
I am in San Antonio, Florida now. I know you all heard of that place. And I'm down there, and my buddy Joe has a house with a lake and a lanai and a pool, and they're going up to North Carolina. And he's like, here's the key to my house. If you want to go over and take a swim, key to your house. 17 years ago, you wouldn't let me near your house. Never mind giving you the key to your house. And my car broke, and I had other friends in NA. My friend Tony said to me, I'll lend you my pickup truck. Lend me your pickup truck, and it just goes through my head. But I know that because I changed through these steps, that what, this is what the life is given me. I really appreciate being here. Thank you very much.
Thanks for sharing.
name's Dan. I'm an addict.
I am.
Thank y'all both for your comments on 8 and 9. It just shows me how much work I still need to do. But I apologize to you right now, and to you right now, to make you uncomfortable telling your story here. I know part of it anyway. Yeah, I'm like him, I try not to have to make amends, but like I said, this little room has made me realize that I've been working with some, but I have been working the 12 traditions, and guiding principles now for a year, and I just finished, tradition 9. So, and like I said, it shows me that I have a lot to do, and I like that, but I like what he said about, getting stuff from written, because this is my 4th one. My son introduced me to these rooms, and I was working in recovery when I was using, and down in Florida, I had some people fooled that I wasn't an addict, and I was full blown, and there's some stuff I probably need to do down there too that I haven't even thought of. So it's nice that I can go through my journey and realize that there's still some things that I need to cover and be shown something new every day from meeting with y'all, like you said, and then I take some stuff in and I give some out, and that's just a beautiful, beautiful part of this program. And I'm just ecstatic to be a part of it and to be able to, restore my soul and plus maybe help somebody else's life. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
My name's Becca. I'm an addict.
Hey, Beck.
I hesitate to share this, but I have this crazy experience with making amends, and it's kind of left me a little hesitant to continue. Other than living amends, so I'm kind of in your boat where it's like I still have work to do, and I'll always have work to do. That's what we do.
Right.
But the main amends that I made was to my very first sponsor, because I came into the program, I came into AA when I was 19. I needed NA. So I finally found my way to you guys. But that's a part of my story, is having that 2.5 years clean in AA, which gave me a foundation that I appreciate today, but it didn't give me a lot of the step work and in depth, like that workbook for NA that gives you. But when I worked through the workbook here recently, I'm a little over a year clean now. And I went through that workbook and I had some written amends. She's passed, so I had to do it in a letter form, read it out, burn it, make a whole little ceremony thing about it. And when I did that, I was very hesitant, right? Because that's just kind of how I am. So I was like, I had written it out already, and I was like ready to do it at some point. Well, my TV goes out. I get on the phone with my boyfriend, my phone cuts out. He's like, and I call him back, he's like, somebody's trying to contact you. And I was like, he's right. So I went on the back porch, and I just happened to have a cigarette. I don't even smoke hardly. I happened to have the cigarettes that she smoked. And I went out the back porch, and I just had this voice very clearly be like, go on the back porch, smoke a cigarette, do your amends. Started to do it, and I'm like, sure enough, I'm like ripping up the page as I go. She's like, leave it. It fell on the floor, and I just heard leave it, and then by the end of it, there was a pile of papers upside down, and it left me a little message, and the message was basically saying do your amends. And I have been so terrified to continue this process because it's like, is every single one of them going to be this intense? Because I've had an issue with a higher power on and off, and for a couple years there, when I was back in and out, I was atheist. I was like, there's no God, there's no reason that there should, and I just went away from the program completely, and that was the only way I could live, was to be in that full denial. But by coming back around, I realized that experience led me to believe in powers greater than myself that aren't necessarily police officers or mental institutions or, like, the weather, whatever. So it led me to believe again in powers greater than myself, and especially those who have passed. Like, they're in our pocket in a lot of ways, like they've got our back. But it was just a strange experience. Like, and I've done a lot of living events since then. Because there are a lot of people in my life. I'm from a small town too, so there's a lot of situations where, like, I just run across people, and if I'm in a place where I feel like it won't hurt them because of the actions that I might have taken or not taken, I can make those amends. But yeah, I have like 2 or 3 more amends to the people who passed, and I'm just like, I've been holding out, so it's not. So thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. Hey, family, I'm Debbie. I'm an addict. Hey, family, and first and foremost, truly need to thank a loving God for absolutely everything. Y'all did amazing. Thank you so much. I was like, yeah, I was over in my seat because I'm like, oh yeah. I think about the 8th and 9th step, and I can remember because, like you, I've done it a few times now, and my list was long. When I first got started, my list was very long. And I could remember having that sponsor that just told me to just make the list. Just don't even worry about it. Just make the list. And I'm going, okay, but I see the 9th step. What do you mean? There's not going to be, what do you mean? So anyway, but I made the list. And when I got to the 9th step, and I do it with my sponsees today, she was able to put me in a place of putting it in categories. Like, you're going to make amends. You may make amends, and hell no, you're not going to make amends. Okay. You are not going to do this one. And I was grateful for that because, like Jeremy said, it's not about me making amends where I'm still harming people in the process, and I had done some real low down, dirty, grimy stuff. I don't come from a little town. I'm from New York. So big city, even more stuff to get into to me. But it was the freeing part of it, and like you, my mom and my dad was like they were on top of the list. I came in here, especially with my mother, I came in here resenting my mother, the things that she could have done, should have done, and all of that. And it's like karma, because everything that I started resenting her for, I was never going to be, I became. With my dad, the womanizing, all of that. Well, I was the female, right? That caused a lot of harm to the men in my life because I just didn't understand love, like to see 2 parents saying they love each other and the dysfunction that was going on. So I didn't trust any man. So when people told me they loved me, what does that mean? So making that list and looking at it the first time, because I want to tell y'all, thank God that this program is ongoing. Because when I first did the steps, I just was like really listening to my sponsor. It was like whatever she said do, I did. I went to meetings, I went to step meetings because I'm telling you, my comprehension was messed up. I don't know about anybody else, but my comprehension was really messed up. So I went to meetings and I went to step meetings and I was able to understand better what is it that I was supposed to be doing here, but as I stayed here and I was able to get in touch with the list and being able to make amends to some people, it got better. And so when I got to that second part of doing that 8th and 9th step, the list was smaller, and today, I love that because that's where I'm at. I just want to be able that when people leave me, that they leave with a sense of love, positivity, things like that. Because I've always wanted to be that person. I didn't want to be the Clint Eastwood, of course, but I wanted to be that person that gave love. I just didn't know how. So coming into this process, it showed me, how to give it, but also how to receive it. And so today I'm just very, very careful on the harm I cause. Not that I still don't, because I need to share. You know, when you was talking about the grandbabies and stuff, my husband and myself, we taken custody of our 3 grandbabies. 2 of them is biological and 1 is their sibling. And oh, I just love them. But on any given day, you know, I'm still in that place with my son and the baby mama. Because to me, they're parlaying. And me and my husband, like, we're working, you know, we're almost 60. And, you know, I'm ready to, like, you know, I'm just ready to live. I guess that's what I used to say. But today, y'all, it talks about in our literature what we thought, you know, was a crisis is such a blessing and it's such a gift. And we've had them now for 6 years, 2 for 6 years and 1 for 3, going 4 years. And it has been the best thing that has happened to me. You know, it's been the best thing that has happened in my marriage. You know, we get to live that over. This is my 2nd marriage. So, you know, we get to be parents, you know, and we get to love on our grandbabies. And I say that because, you know, part of my amends process was with my children. You know, earlier on, you know, I drugged them. I wasn't the parent, or my parents wasn't the one that took my kids. I drug my kids through my addiction, you know, and I used to be the one that came in here and said, well, you didn't have your kids, I had mine. But as I stayed here, I started realizing, like, you know what, the similarity was like, I drug them, you know, and so I felt like my higher power, who I choose to call God, gave me an opportunity, you know, at their young age that I don't remember with my kids because I was high as hell, gave me the opportunity to relive that, to be able to do that again, you know, and it's so wonderful. And so, so I'm working on that place, you know, and I pray for him, you know, I pray for my son, I pray for the baby mom, I still, you know, but on a lot of days, I'm just like, you know, when are they going to get themselves together? You know, when are they, you know, and then I don't want to let go either. So you was talking about the grandbaby. So it's like, if they do come, I don't know if I'm gonna give you, you know, like, so anyway, you know, I keep coming for that, but I'm so grateful, and y'all did a wonderful job on the 8th and the 9th step. And you know, I don't want to take up too much time on talking about it, but it is, if you haven't worked at 8th or 9th, please do it. The freedom that comes with it is amazing. I would have never thought that I would have been here. I would have never thought that I would have been able to tell people, to let people know that I was sorry, because there was some people that I said, I'm not telling them nothing. You know what I mean? They did this to me, nothing, you know, and this program just soften you up, you know, and it allows you to talk about those nevers and those nothing you ain't gonna do. You end up doing it, and the freedom, like you said, just keeping my side of the street clean. So just wanted to share a little bit, and thank you all again for sharing your experience, strength, and hope.
My name is Joe, but I'm an addict. I'm fairly new in recovery, you know, like a year, and
Woo!
but I
Yeah.
work with the sponsor, and we started the step process and have reached step 9, and of course step 8. You know, I've lived a long time, so the list was ad infinitum, you know, because of my age. But when we started working step 9, you know, and I've only done a few of them, but the feeling I got, the sensation I got was I was lifting me off of me, you know, and that felt, I mean, it just opened me up as far as just not feeling the guilt and remorse that I always felt because of the way I lived my life. So this has been great. This has been a great workshop for me because it kind of showed me a lot of things, what I need to do and what not to do, you know, because I don't know. I mean, I run into my sponsor, like there's some things I did, you know, shoplifting and stuff. How do I deal with that? You know, so it's great to get that. And I just want to thank you guys for this.
Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing. Jimmy.
When I got to this step, my sponsor said, how you gonna make good amends? What are you gonna He asked me how many times I said I was sorry before I ever got clean. I said, "Look," he said, "Well, that word don't mean shit." It was about changing action. It was about admitting the role I played in whatever situation it was. It wasn't about saying, "I'm sorry." It was about admitting whatever wrong I did and treating that person different. And the indirect to me, nobody heard, I didn't hear, I might have missed it. But there's a lot of folks that I will miss too, and I still don't know where they are. And I've been past the ninth step for a long time. But the way I made them amends, like the women that I don't know where are, I treat women with respect.
That's right.
You know, I treat people with respect because I never did that. Deserve the respect. And nobody showed me respect. Why the hell was I gonna show somebody else? That was the way my sponsors played. How to make amends to me. That's what worked for me.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Good to see you, Jimmy.
Robert Adams.
Hey, Robert.
Oh, man, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be clean. And, you know, like, I don't even know. Listening to you guys today, I felt like, I was like, have I even worked? And you're that stuff. But that's kind of how I've been all weekend, you know. It's like I got here and I feel, you know, I'm so like regimented with my meetings at home, and it's the same, you know. And coming to a convention in a completely different area of the country, it just makes me like raw. I'm like, just I'm so uncomfortable, you know. But it's good though, you know. And you know, I was thinking about all this stuff about changing my life, you know. And if I look back, you know, about all the things that I did in my life, real quickly it can get really ugly, you know, for me in my head, you know. It's painful because I know that I destroyed a lot of things, a lot of things when people were trying to be good to me, you know. And so when I worked this step, the last time, you know, I was told that it's all about what I'm doing right now, right? It may not be that I'm going to go and sit down face to face with these people, because I'm actually nowhere near where I used, you know, and where I live right now. And I was told that, I mean, I was taught that, you know, this is a self-centered disease, right? And I really have to remember the part about these steps where, you know, it talks about doing harm to others, or even more importantly to myself. And I know that for me, like, I think that a lot of these things that I did, bringing them back up can actually harm myself to a degree where it's not healthy, you know. And a lot of the people that a lot of the things that I interacted with, a lot of the people that I was around, they were also toxic people. And for me to go back into some of these areas, or areas of my life or people that were in my past, I mean, that could be detrimental to my recovery, you know. So what I do today is, you know, I'm a husband, I'm a business owner, so I can relate. You know, I have children today. When I was in my active addiction, I didn't treat women with respect. I didn't treat myself with respect. I disrespected other people's homes who had children and used around other people's children. And today, I don't do that, right? But I also am good to my children. You know, if I do something wrong, my kids are young, but I apologize to them, you know, and I tell them, that was not good behavior on my end. My dad, my parents, I mean, I have a military dad, and there was no sorry.
Mhm.
There was no admitting that he was wrong for beating me or treating me the way that he did. But I don't have to do that, right? I have a friend, actually my grand sponsor. He always talks about breaking the cycle. And like honestly, that's all I'm here for right now. I'm here to break the cycle of what I came from, and I'm here to do something different today. And you know, I'm on step 6 right now with a new sponsor, and I'm going to be getting into 8 and 9 again. And I gotta say, man, I'm so glad that I sat here today because I'm nervous for what I'm gonna have to do because I know he's a totally different sponsor, and I don't know what that's gonna be. And I keep on telling myself, like every time I go into a step with a new sponsor, I'm like, all right, I know how to do this one because I did it with somebody else. And it's never the same, right? He pulls so much more out of me than the last time, right? And so now I'm going into this, but I always have this like I know it mentality. I think I know. I'm going to tell my sponsor how I'm going to work this step this time, you know. But I have to remember I got to lay that guard down and say, okay, I can be teachable again. Like this is going to be a whole new experience. So yeah, that's it. Thanks.
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 Thanks, Robert. Yeah.
For those of you who just came in, we're open sharing right now. So
8th and 9th step. Right, well,
Magnet for
okay,
All
hey,
right.
Frank.
quick story. I had about 5 years clean, got my first house. I mean, everything's going good. My house gets broken into, steal my TV, my stereos, cash, some other stuff. After I called the cops, I called my sponsor, whining to him, they broke into my house and they stole all my shit. Nice and quiet and calmly, he said, what about all those houses you broke into?
Oh, how about that?
How do you think those people felt?
Uh-huh.
I don't want to talk to you anymore. You know, I think in recovery, everything seems to have a way of just coming back
Yeah,
around.
karma.
Things we did bite us in the ass. And I
Mhm.
try to make those amends as best I can.
Yes.
You know, one of the things I did early on, I asked myself, well, how do I make amends to society? And it's like, I don't know how to do this. So I got involved with crisis line in my local area. And mostly it was a lot of classes, and a lot of training.
Mhm.
But the cool thing about it was everything I learned doing crisis line for a year rolled over when I started getting involved in PR.
Yes.
You know, all those experiences.
Yes.
It's like, wow, this is pretty cool, you know. And it's just a lot of the experiences that we've had over the years. I mean, some of those events, it's taken me years and years to get to where I had the opportunity to make some of those events. And when it presents itself, I was able to do that. You know, I love what you share about the shoplifting. You know, once you go to that store and spend your good hard money instead of stealing from them instead. What a concept, you know. So I mean, we learn from each other, and we learn how to make those amends, and we learn to be okay with the guy wearing my skin. That's what I think is important. So I'm glad to be here today. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks for sharing, Frank.
does anybody else want to chime in? Going once, going twice.
All righty.
Okay, all right. So I don't know if there's any. Are we announcing this?
Yes, you
Okay.
have to, you read this first. And then you
Right.
Where is it?
This is the last page.
Yep.
So, thank you again. We're ready to
Awesome
start
job.
today.
Mhm.
We have, I guess, an announcement here. As our 11th tradition states, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We can always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. The primary purpose of our public relations effort is to tell the story of Narcotics Anonymous and what our program offers to the still suffering addict. Members of the press are often attracted to our convention, and we welcome their interest. However, we do not disclose our last names in the media as identifiable members of Narcotics Anonymous. If members of the press approach you, please direct them to a member of the convention planning panel, board of directors, or the public relations subcommittee. Smoking is only allowed in the designated areas. If you have any questions on where to find these areas, please see a member of the convention panel or planning panel. These members can be identified by a blue ribbon on their shirt. That's it. So
I say something?
Yes, of
We
course.
still have raffle tickets for sale, so please get please get a raffle ticket. And we still have a few banquet tickets available, so please support. And entertainment, gonna have a wonderful comedian, so please get a ticket if you can. All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you.
We circle up and close. We'll do the Wii version. On the sound. God.
Grant us serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Come back, better than crack.
Oh. I like that one, man.
I don't know how to do it. The co-host thing. I don't listen, so, okay, let me
Where are you
do
from in New York?
Brooklyn.
I'm from the Bronx. My trader daughter moved to Brooklyn.